What's up, everyone? Welcome to 49ers Friday. We're your hosts, Grant Cohn, Rob Schuh, Jerry Rice in the building. That's a great jersey. I would have worn that. And that's from our era back in the day.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Grant. This was I'm fairly certain this was a Christmas present. I know it was a Christmas present from my older brother. I'm fairly certain it was 1998. This bad boy is going on 23 years old.
23 years old. Wow.
Almost a quarter of a century.
Phenomenal. Look, the Niners are playing the Colts. I don't know how that ties into 1998 and the 49ers, but that was the first year of Mariucci? And now we're in the fifth year of Kyle Shanahan, and he's at a crossroads. If he loses this game this Sunday, I don't know what's going to happen to him. Really can't say. They should win, though. And we're going to talk about all the different permutations, and we're going to preview the game, but we're going to also talk big picture as well, starting with how Kyle Shanahan acted at his press conference. I'm glad you noticed this. I was sitting there. I was like, different Kyle today. I asked a question too. Like, he's been so snarky to me all year.
Yes, he has.
I just feel like, man, it's not warranted. If he were 4-1 or 5-0 and I were coming at him hard, I'd get it. It's like, dude, get off my back. We're good.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you're 2-3, and these questions just kind of come with the territory. Can you leave me? Can you just answer the question and win? And so I think, anyway, he answered my question. I asked him about a fairly hard question about Colin Kaepernick and tying it into this season and why the offense isn't good. And he really answered thoughtfully and not combatively. Anyway,
he really did.
What was your takeaway from his demeanor?
It just jumped out to me. It jumped off the page because the last couple of press conferences, and rightfully so, as far as from the human aspect, it's easy to see from Kyle's perspective why he would be more and more irritated each time he's come to the podium this year. The season has not gone as he expected it to go to this point.
Yeah.
So from a human's perspective, it's easy to understand why he would be frustrated, why it would be difficult to remain civil at these press conferences. And you do come at him hard. So he likes to pick on you. And immediately when he hit the podium for this press conference, it was a different Shanahan.
Right.
I saw a little bit of humility coming through. I saw a less standoffish version of Kyle. I didn't feel the combative nature that he had been putting out there in the previous press conferences.
He whispered the whole time.
Yeah, it was calm. It was, but it I was like, oh, shoot, is Kyle defeated at this point?
No,
but I didn't think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel as if he was knocked down by this. It felt as if he was calm, collected, and had a chance to regather himself. And it was all in the face, man. You could just see it in the previous press conferences. Go back if you're on this and listen to us right now. Go back and watch him. The eyebrows, the eyes, the tension in his face.
Sure.
It wasn't there this time around.
Yeah, I think we talk about during the bye week self-scouting.
Yes.
And you focus on, like, we're always thinking, well, they're going to look at the film. Well, maybe Kyle did some self-scouting of his press conferences and realized, man, I'm not representing myself that well this season or the organization. And while I'm not on the hot seat, I need to do better here because I'm being defensive, argumentative, and I'm making myself look weak.
Yes.
What would be better is to be confident, don't be defensive, and be professional, because that projects confidence and leadership. And I think that's what he did. So when you talk about self-scouting, he self-scouted himself and made an adjustment. I respect it. Again, you can't be mad at the press when they ask you why you're losing 3 in a row. You can't be mad. So watch the film, be like, I don't need to be like that. I can be so much more charming, or not even charming, just professional, and people leave me alone.
Yes, simply from the perspective of self-preservation, it makes sense to have this approach because, to your point, if you come across as defensive, if you are constantly combative with the media, it makes it seem as if you don't feel secure in what you're doing, as if you feel you need to defend yourself because the criticism is warranted.
Again, if they're 5-0 and I was the only one like nitpicking them, that'd be fine, man.
Yeah, different scenario.
That's different, but you just lost 3 in a row. And sometimes his attitude is, how could you ask me these questions? As if he's a 2-time Super Bowl winner and they're not 2-3. That's not the case. You have to be humble enough to answer these questions. Otherwise,
I wonder, during the bye week, he had the chance to go with his father and his family to the Ring of Honor ceremony in Denver.
Interesting.
And you wonder if someone with an outside perspective on this wasn't able to offer him some insight on that.
And his dad, maybe he's busy, doesn't get to talk to his dad that much during the year. He's hanging out with him. Hey, son, I'm proud of you, but I don't think you're doing yourself any favors in the press conferences.
Right.
Look, you got goods. You just got a 6-year extension. You know that you have standing there, and you probably wouldn't get fired first. But don't act like it. Don't be defensive. Just be the wonderful boy I know you are. Be the wonderful son I know you are. You don't need to stoop to that level. He doesn't need to stoop to that level.
He doesn't. He should be confident. He should have the mindset that this is all fixable, and he needs to outwardly portray that. I wonder if it wasn't his father, I'm certain he would listen to words from John Elway, who seems to understand football from a PR perspective, right? He is absolutely the face of the franchise there in Denver and gets that brave front type of attitude that he puts out there.
When you're losing or when you're not getting the results you're supposed to be getting as a coach, the attitude you have when you take these tough questions is, look, and you use the reporter's name. Hey, Grant, I totally understand why you're asking that question. That's what you say right off the bat. I understand why you're asking that. It's a fair question.
Right.
And then you say what you got to say. You don't incriminate yourself and be like, I'm really doing a terrible job. They might consider firing me. That's a fair question. Here's where I'm sincerely coming from. Here's what I'm trying to do. And the questioner says, okay. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not putting you on trial. I have to ask the question. You have to answer it, but that's the way you do it. When the answerer gets all flustered about it, and doesn't really give an answer, that makes me want to come back. We'll be like, well, okay, now I got under your skin, and I'm going to keep, chipping away here until you say something real.
You sense weakness, right? Because that's what you're putting out there. 2 weeks ago, the response I heard from Kyle Shanahan was along the lines of, how dare you ask me that question, sir? How dare you?
Right.
And that's not the way in which to go about it.
I don't like it at all, because that was Chip Kelly's attitude when he was with the Niners that one year, when he was losing 13 in a row, and you'd be like, man, you just gave up 250 rushing yards again. Your offense did nothing after halftime. Where were the halftime adjustments? And he'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm Chip Kelly. Like, dude, you've never won anything in your life, and you come here like you invented football. And I swear Kyle was starting to give off those vibes, and they're just really unattractive. You can't be that arrogant when you're losing.
It's a snowball effect with the fan base that they are rightfully unhappy with the product that they're seeing on the field right now. Yeah. And they want answers. They don't want you to say, well, that's not a valid question, because the fans have these very same questions themselves, and they deserve answers because they pay their hard-earned money to buy the gear, to go to the games, and to support the franchise that they love.
Right. All the fans want to hear from Kyle is, that's a good question. It's a fair question. I'm on it.
Here's what I'm doing.
I'm on it. Yeah. I'm on this mofo. Trust me. That's all fans want to hear, right? I got this. Trust me. But you got to acknowledge it. If you're up there being like, it's not an issue. Like, it's just one play here, one play there. Fans are like, oh God, we can't even fix the issue if you don't address it.
That's worrisome. Yeah. Right. If you're not willing to acknowledge it's a problem, how are we going to address it?
So good sign. I'm glad you noticed that too.
Positive sign for sure.
Nick Bosa spoke this week. Will you tell people what happened?
Yeah, Bosa came to the podium yesterday. He was taking questions, and he was asked for something he believes he does well that he doesn't get the appropriate level of credit for. And his answer, and this may be a slight paraphrasing of what he said, but he said, me and Eric are the best edge setters in the game. So it raised a question for me, right? When I thought about it immediately, I was like, well, that's a stretch. I mean, yeah, maybe Bosa is one of the strongest in the game, but Eric Armstead tends to struggle with the mobile quarterbacks. I've seen him step inside one too many times, allowing Russell Wilson to put the dagger in our back. And then I thought about it, though, and aside from mobile quarterbacks, which it's fair to say that mobile quarterbacks give fits to basically every team they go against. Every defense that plays a quarterback like Russell Wilson struggles with a quarterback like Russell Wilson. So I went to, okay, if it's not the mobile quarterback, what about the running backs? Well, in fact, the 49ers have gone since December of 2019 was the last time they allowed a 100-yard rusher. So it raised the question.
And who was it?
Lamar Jackson. It was a mobile quarterback.
I don't even know the last time a running back did it.
Yeah, I mean, before Lamar Jackson, I have to imagine in that season, I think we did give up a 100-yard rusher earlier in the year, even though we won some of those games.
Yeah.
But it raises the question of, is Bosa right? And I wanted to get your perspective on it because I know that you watch more film than almost anyone I know.
I think he's right. I think he is right. Especially against running backs. Like handoffs, it's real tough to run at either one of those guys. You're better off. What people have success with against the Niners is running right up the gut because they use that wide 9. They spread people out, and you can kind of move either defensive tackle. It doesn't matter who.
By definition, the wide 9 lanes are wide.
Yeah. So, they're really good at setting the edge. That's really not where you want to attack the Niners defense. You want to go right up the gut. They're right on that. Now, the irony is, if I remember correctly, and I think I do, the dagger in the Super Bowl was whatever the Chiefs running back's name was. Running to the left, and Bosa diving and missing, and that being a touchdown that really ended that game. So, but that's like the only. Sorry, I had to bring that up.
Painful
Nick,
outlier that you want to drag back for us to relive now.
Nick is so strong. He's might be the strongest defensive end in the NFL, and then Armstead is freaking huge.
Yeah, the wingspan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I've been really hard on these guys about not containing quarterbacks, mobile ones. What they did against Kyler Murray, who's the most elusive quarterback in the league, was just phenomenal. So maybe they figured it out because that's the hardest assignment, and they just did it.
It does make sense that type of rush pattern where you need to contain a quarterback is much more similar to the way in which an offensive line needs to operate. Everyone needs to operate on the same page. Right. You can't have one guy going rogue and saying, I'm going to take him down myself, because that's when you dive, miss, and he's outside the pocket,
right?
And you're gashed. So it makes sense that it would take a bit more time to develop over the season, and now you're seeing it, you saw it week 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a very good news for this week because the Niners are going against a excellent running back, Jonathan Taylor. And if the Colts are going to win, he's going to go for 150 yards. And I don't think a running back's done that in a very long time. And when you have not just those two guys setting the edge, but Fred Warner in the middle, even those defensive tackles are getting washed out, it's a really, really good run defense.
Yes, and it will be critical because Jonathan Taylor is definitely primed to gash this defense if they're not containing. He has ripped off sizable runs several times this season. And if the 49ers can get away from that 80-yard gash, the 80-yard touchdown run, they have a real chance to contain him under 100 yards. And so it's all about playing sound football.
I think Jonathan Taylor should change his name to John. So he could be John Taylor.
John Taylor is far better
Great
of a name.
Jonathan Taylor, also good, but not as good.
As you know, Grant, it's all about the single syllables.
Yeah, and having the same name as 49ers legends. Okay, Isaac Hartman says, off topic, if we fired Jed and Parag, what are some qualities, attributes you expect of a new president and or VP? Any candidates? Ooh, I haven't started. I like it, Isaac. I haven't started investigating yet. But if Rob and I were starting the investigation, I would look at, guys from good organizations.
Yes.
Let's interview someone from the Saints, someone from the Chiefs, someone from Tampa, someone from New England. I mean, just like how in the 90s, teams would be trying to hire people from the 49ers.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
And look at the track record of success in doing that. Look at the tree that descended from those 49ers roots or grew from those 49ers roots. It is a big tree, right? There's a reason people pursue those successful organizations, because typically those involved, even if it wasn't directly your decision-making that led to the success, you were a part of it. You understood the process, and you can teach everyone in the organization you come on board with the successful way to go about it.
Let's compare it to the San Francisco Giants, okay? They wanted to make a huge shift. They had Sabian there for what, 20 years? More, 20 years. And they decided it was time to go in a new direction. So they hired the number 2 guy from the freaking Dodgers. How hard is it? The Dodgers are really good. They win 100-something games every year. Let's hire Farhan Zaidi. He's the number 2 guy there. I mean, how hard is it? And look at the Giants now. I'm sorry. You pick an organization you admire, some guy who's been there for a while and has some cachet, hire that guy. It's not freaking hard.
Yeah.
If you're committed to winning, it's that easy. Sorry. Giants figured it out.
I wish that Isaac was right here, that we could, in fact, move on from Jed. That would be pretty fantastic if we could.
Justin says he loses this week. The fans will be banging on the gates. That being said, what are 3 keys to beating the Colts? Also, who is the player that needs to step up most for that win to happen? What do you think?
I mean, I'll go with the first key to the game is absolutely keying in on Jonathan Taylor. I think that if the 49ers can contain the run, I'm not confident that Carson Wentz alone. I know that he's progressed from what we saw at the beginning of the year as he was recovering from the injury, but even with what I saw against the Texans last week, I'm not convinced that Carson Wentz can single-handedly beat the 49ers. So to me, the biggest key to the game is shutting down Jonathan Taylor.
I agree. And the thing is, I think they're going to. So that's a good thing. The other key is use your running backs like they didn't do against the Cardinals. I mean, I don't understand what Kyle Shanahan's doing. And they asked Kyle Juszczyk what's up with the run game, and he's like, well, we got rookies in the backfield. Like they don't trust the rookies, and that's why. Well, if that's the issue, you're going to keep losing because this team is not built to drop back and pass a million times. It's supposed to be a team that runs 55, 60% of the time, and you don't trust 2 running backs because they're rookies, even though both of them are statistically doing well. Well, that's on you, man. So use your running backs. How about that?
Yeah, and the offense loses so much if you don't trust a speedy back within this system. If you don't have someone who can get that edge, forget about it, right? The playbook gets reduced significantly. So if you're not going to lean heavily on Elijah Mitchell this week and balance it out with some Trey Sermon and trust those rookies, it's going to be a tough day.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got to do? Geez, I don't think the defense needs that much instruction here. I think the defense.
No, they'll get after the quarterback. They'll punish Wentz, and that's critical. You got a guy who's continually beat up.
Okay.
You
I got one more.
Body blows.
Well, for Jimmy in the passing game, get him in the shotgun, get him away from Buckner, get the ball out of his hands quick.
Ooh, yes, that could be an ugly matchup.
Yeah.
Buckner
get the ball to the perimeter
Brunskill.
too. If you try to do the play action throws over the middle, first of all, Buckner will blow that up, and then if he doesn't, then Darius Leonard will pick it off.
Yeah,
dude, I mean, Jimmy, when he gets picked, it's often by a linebacker. Darius Leonard has 9 picks in his career. He's been playing as long as Fred Warner, who's a great player, has 3 picks in his career. Darius Leonard is really good. We just don't talk about him that much because he plays in Indy.
If the over/under on Leonard is 0.5 picks for the day, you taking the over or the under? Does he pick Jimmy?
He shouldn't if Kyle Shanahan calls a smart game with a lot of quick throws to the perimeter.
The game plan should go around it.
Yeah, don't give him the opportunity. He shouldn't.
It's a weakness, right?
Reason to. Your defense is going to give up like 14 points. Why are you doing it? Be very cautious on offense. Who is the player that needs to step up most for this win to happen?
I mean, you need production on the offense. So to me, it's the obvious one. It's Brandon Ayuk that at some point this season, he has to answer that bell. And with George Kittle out again this week, you need to have a second receiving threat. And as much as I want that to be Ross Dwelley.
Can you please give this dude a chance? Look. I know that they're having issues with Ayuk. That's cool. If you want to give other people a chance, it's not Sanu and Benjamin. It's Jennings and Dwelley. Give them a freaking chance. They're young. They've had success. Let them try. Let them do something. I'm just saying. I understand not force feeding Ayuk if he can't get open or he doesn't know what. Fine. Sure. But not Sanu and Benjamin.
No.
Matumbo. Finger wag. Good question, Justin.
Invest in those players that are likely to continue to develop through this season because it's looking like, if anything, we're going to be struggling to get that last wild card spot this year. So we need to have a team that is better at the end of the season than it is right now. And the way in which to do that is to invest in those young, talented players that are struggling at the moment so that they can grow.
Ross Dwelley's best football is ahead of him. As opposed to number 85, who is still hurt. The loss of Kittle, people don't talk about it, but it's killing this team. This team, they pay him like he's a wide receiver. They pay him to freaking dominate and be like Travis Kelce and have 100 yards a game. And he just hasn't been able to do that in 2 years. Anyway, I don't know how we're going to talk about that later.
I remain optimistic, Grant, because I just want to, even if he just misses those 3 games, that's about the average. If he can stay healthy the rest of the season, I think the criticism's unfair.
They need him to do that.
Yeah.
George, bounce back hard. They need you. Okay. So McGlinchey comes out this week, and someone asks him, "What's up with your boy Aaron Banks? Why is he not playing? You guys both went to Notre Dame." And he's like, "Well, our run game is just so intricate. You got to be able to do stuff in the tackle box, and you got to be able to do stuff out wide, and it's so complicated." And that's why he's just not ready to do all the intricacies of the run game.
He said it's a very technically demanding system, very technically complicated to do what we do up front. It's why you don't see a lot of teams taking the chances we do in the run game.
Mike pulled it off when he was a rookie. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He could do it. He came from Notre Dame.
Yeah, my question is the offense too demanding? Is that why we keep seeing the mistakes? I mean, it fits the narrative of so many penalties, so many players failing to crack the starting lineup in their first year. To me, it's worth asking the question.
I'm not going to give him that excuse. I totally feel where you're coming from, but I'm not going to give him that excuse because they handled this in the past. In 2019, their running game was even more complicated, and they knocked it out.
Yes.
And I mean, that was with a young Mike McGlinchey. I mean, they could do this stuff in 2018. To me, the issue always, we don't talk about it, but the position coach, you can have all these ideas as a coordinator, but the position coach makes it happen. And I never was that big of a fan of John Benton because I thought the Niners can't pass protect to save their lives, but maybe that's just the players he was given. In terms of the run game, he had those guys executing. And Saleh took him with him to the Jets. He might be the run game coordinator over there. He's gone. And the Niners promoted that dude. What's that guy's name?
That dude.
I keep forgetting this dude's name. Anyway.
Forrester?
Forrester. So he was the guy who was making a ton of money in Miami. He was like he had a good reputation as a good offensive line coach. And he was, but then he ruined his career for a little bit. If you don't know what happened, Google it. And then he's back. And I think people thought, man, this guy's a good position coach. Well, Aaron Banks hasn't gotten any results. He doesn't seem to be. I question Forrester here. It seems to me a failure of teaching right now.
Yeah, it's fair. When you look purely at this question of is the offense too complicated from an offensive lineman standpoint,
Forrester,
I think that's a fair way to look at it, because in 2019, to your point, they had effectively, 7 players playing the offensive line and seemed to do it well week in and week out. Players
School could do it.
Yeah, changing positions, rotating in and out, and yet it seemed that the run game was consistently unstoppable. So I think as it relates specifically to Aaron Banks, it's a fair point that you're making there. That's probably more on him and perhaps the timing of the injury that led to him not being able to crack the code. I do still wonder if it's too complicated in that's what we're seeing from the lack of execution standpoint. If we're trying to get too cute at this point in time, and if Kyle's perfectionist nature is just too much tightness at the top of the organization and guys just aren't executing as they need to.
Yeah, interesting. It seems to me, since they've had success running intricate run games in the past, what they need is someone who can teach it.
They need a great teacher.
You can have all the great ideas in the world, but they don't work if you don't have a great teacher. And that's that's why you got to invest in those position coaches. There's no salary cap on position coaches. Harbaugh had great position coaches. His offensive line coach was Mike Solari, who is the Seahawks offensive line. He's phenomenal. He's been around since the 90s. I mean, he's super good. And he gets results. Chris Forrester had an interesting last 5 years. I don't know where he's at right now. I interviewed him before the season in a group. He was just delightful. Just delightful. Doesn't mean he's good. Sorry.
No,
and he needed to get results with Aaron Banks. Hasn't been able to do so. Tom Benton got Mike McGlinchey on the field as a rookie.
Yeah. And very important to point out how badly Brunskill has been playing relative to the other offensive linemen, that it's not as if
Gotten
Banks
worse.
isn't cracking the lineup because of a very talented person in front of him, even though the quote this week was that Brunskill's very tough to beat out.
Not only is Banks behind Brunskill, he's behind Tom Compton. Okay. So let me say this, Tom Compton, and we should know that already because Compton's active on game days and Banks isn't. But Compton wouldn't be in the league if it weren't for the 49ers.
If it weren't for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, there's a few players on the Niners 53 that I don't think would be in the league if it weren't for Kyle. So he's one of the buddies that's on the team. So if Banks is beneath a buddy system guy, what does that say about Banks? That the Niners essentially think, man, you're not an NFL player. And maybe he's not, but is that not on the position coach, or is that just on the front office for drafting? I mean, hard to say.
It's worrisome. I hope that Compton's just up on game days because he can play multiple positions at a better average than Banks could. I would hope that Banks would be a better right guard option than Compton at this point, but it's fair to criticize because Compton's the one that's dressed on game days.
All right. Explain to the good people who watch this show why Jimmy Garoppolo deserves lots of credit.
There may be some people who are yelling at their computers at the moment, like, no, Jimmy does not deserve any
How
credit.
much credit?
Let's pump the brakes on that. And let's look at this from a perspective of how bad this season is at this moment, but how much worse it could be. If you think that at week, the bye week coming into week 7, that the 49ers are a tire fire at this moment, just imagine what would happen if you had a personality type like Aaron Rodgers instead of Jimmy G, and he was having to deal with this 2-quarterback situation. To this point in time, while the season has potentially gone off the rails already, while it has been chaotic, while it has been frustrating to watch, Jimmy G has been a perfect gentleman back there. He has every right not to be. He has every right to be upset with the way in which this plan was initially drawn up, with the way in which it's been executed, with the things that have been said about him. And to his credit, Jimmy G has remained quiet, positive at the podium. And I think that you could say, yeah, he gets paid $27 million to do that. But if you look around at other quarterbacks, I don't think there are very many who would have handled this situation as gracefully as Jimmy G.
That's true. That's true. Good job, Jimmy. I like that. No, Jimmy's cool. Like, I spend so much time making fun of Jimmy. I don't even know why. I don't even know him. And I would imagine, like, if you ran into Jimmy at the club in Chicago, and you were just chilling the VIP and he happened to be right next to you and you were like, man, what's up, dude? How you doing? You were just kicking it, chilling. You're like, hey, so my boy is Grant. We're friends. He'd probably be like, all right, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And that'd be fair because I kind of make a living just ripping on the dude.
Sure.
But in the group interviews that he does every Wednesday, I always ask him a few questions and he knows exactly who I am. He looks me in the eye and he answers extremely professionally. And it's like, I appreciate that. He's above it. He's very above it. And I appreciate his gentlemanness. He is a gentleman and I wouldn't say, I don't know if he's a scholar, but he is a gentleman and he is a professional.
Yes.
Only thing I would say though is let's be okay. So he's definitely a gentleman. I'll give him credit for that, but he has incentive to be a gentleman.
That's true.
He's in this very interesting position where he's one of the most overpaid players in the league. And I think everyone knows it. Not that he's a bad player, but he's the 5th highest paid player in the league. And he's probably the 20th best quarterback in the league or something like that.
Sure.
So what he needs to do is keep this going. This is like a bubble. Keep this going. Because he's on track to get $27 million next year too. And so how do you keep this going? Be a good soldier. Be a gentleman. Be a professional. Hey, it's out of my control. All I can do is show up and do what I can and support Trey and be... You know what I'm saying? Because as soon as you start being a malcontent, although I don't know, with a face like that, people give you second and third chances. But as soon as you start being a malcontent, people start looking at you like, well, how about all that money they gave you? I mean, what about you? So I do think it's in his interest to be a gentleman, but I also think it's in his nature to be a gentleman.
I do too. I actually think if you ran into Jimmy at the VIP table, I think he is who he is. I think who you see in the press conferences is pretty close to the dude that you would meet in real life. I have a family friend that grew up in the Illinois area and knows his family and is friends with the Garoppolos and describes them as very much like that working class blue collar family that just comes across the way that they do in the, what you see is what you get with the Garoppolos.
I have a feeling if I bumped into Jimmy at the club, he'd be the kind of guy who would like give you a hug and be like, "Come here, asshole." Like, you know what I mean?
Like so too.
Like he, in a fraternal kind of good-natured way, like he'd be like, "I don't like you, but it's good to see you." Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe he gives, and I love people like that. I really do.
You have to respect it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you have you're set up to be the other guy. You're set up to be the a-hole, no question. Right. People wouldn't fault you if you were upset, if you took the Aaron Rodgers type of attitude.
Because I'm not trying to be Jimmy's friend.
Snarky.
I'm not trying to be Jimmy's friend.
But could you imagine what this tire fire would look like if he just rolled his eyes a couple of times when asked about how this offense works with Trey coming in?
Well, that's what I wanted to say. I'm not so against. I feel like sometimes he's being too much of a gentleman. Because again, we grew up in the 90s watching Steve Young. How would Steve Young handle this? Let's say.
Interesting.
Let's say, okay, so Jimmy's 29 right now, right?
Yep.
29. Let's say when Steve Young was 34, 35, when they drafted Jim Druckenmiller or something like that, Steve wouldn't have just like, "Oh, it's Jim's team now, man. I just got to be nice." And Steve would have taken it. And Aaron Rodgers would take it. And so Jimmy, like, if you can stay healthy and take this and go to the playoffs and do something, everyone will respect that. You can take the team. They haven't ran you off yet. Be a little more forceful. Steve would.
Yes.
Steve would be. Joe would be.
That's a fair criticism that he really should plant the flag, stake his claim, and own that starting role.
Dude, they're paying you $27 million this year. You can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. They're not paying Kyle that much.
No. Not paying anybody that much.
Do what you want to do. If it's your team, say it. Prove it. Stay healthy and beat the Colts. And then the Bears.
Stake your claim.
And then the Cardinals. Do it. I would love to see that. That would be great. That's what sports all about, man. Don't just give up. Hey, man, it's Trey's team. I'm just kind of keeping the seat warm. Nah, man, don't do that. Stop being such a gentleman. You don't have to roll your eyes, but at the same time, you don't have to be so nice. Steve wouldn't be. Steve would get pissed. Remember that?
Be fiery. Yeah.
Fiery. Come on, Jimmy. It's a good quality. Fiery.
Fire it up. Fire it up.
All right, this
Fire
is
it up.
The 49ers plan, you've been tweeting about this, and I'm passionate about this. It makes no sense. The 49ers plan, they said they needed a quarterback because Jimmy gets hurt. Then they got the quarterback and buried him on the depth chart because Jimmy all of a sudden was their quarterback. Then Jimmy got hurt, and they were like, "Damn, we should have gotten this other guy ready. How could we have possibly foreseen this happening?"
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened.
It is. They told us, they're like, "Dude, we can't win. There's this problem that exists." But we're going to address the problem. We are going to take steps in this draft to address the problem. And then the problem that they told us exists happens, and they're like, "Well, we don't have a solution to that."
No.
What do you mean? Like,
wait,
no, the solution we said was the solution was never the solution from the outset, right? He was never going to be ready. It was never reasonable to expect. You told us, you as an organization told us that this was to address the fact that you had a starting caliber quarterback who couldn't stay healthy. You said he would get injured. He did. And then the person you said you were bringing in to fix this problem, he's not ready. And there was no chance he was ever going to be ready, and it was unreasonable of us to expect that he was going to be ready.
Right. It doesn't make, it's absurd, right? It's like a Kafka novel. It doesn't make any freaking sense.
It's wild.
So when things like this happen in football, I always, when things make no sense and they almost seem like sabotage, I always feel like, okay, well, there's two different things happening in the organization. And the way I look at it is, again, this whole plan for this year was a front office creation. It was a John Lynch, Adam Peters, Jed York creation. Hey, because the way I look at it is Kyle wanted to do what Bill Belichick ended up doing, which is just draft Mac Jones and start over.
Move on.
And I think the Niners felt like, that's scary, man. Like, we don't really know Mac Jones that well. The fans don't want him. And Jimmy, he's just so clean. He didn't do the thing with the $100 million. He wins. He's marketable. Instead of doing the Mac Jones thing, let's keep Jimmy and then develop Trey for the future. And I think like if that plan gets forced upon a coach, he doesn't have the same he doesn't have any investment in it. Let's be frank. He has no investment in it. So he can say, okay, I'll be a good soldier and play my position and do what I'm told, but I don't have to like bend over backwards to try to make this work because I know it won't. So, I didn't prepare Trey Lance that much. Oops. Hey, it wasn't my plan. As opposed to, this is what I want to do and I'm going to make it work. Then you turn over every stone to make sure this doesn't happen. But to me, this has all the earmarks of a coach who's been given a script he didn't believe in. And he's like, all right, well, see what happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's tough to know. I tend to think of Kyle Shanahan as more of an ultimate competitor, and I see those types of people as basically always being self-motivated to win. And so I struggle to think of him being lukewarm with a strategy, even if he had to be talked into it. I would think he would give it.
He's very realistic too, though. I mean, he knows what Jimmy is, and he thinks he knows what Trey is at this point, and he's looking at his cards like, okay, what are the expectations here, guys? Yeah. This is your plan. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, John.
That does tie into how I see it, which is a failed strategy from the outset. Agreed. And the front office actively trying to sell this plan to the fan base as if it would work, and feeling duped as a fan, feeling as if I was sold a bill of goods at the beginning of the season that they knew damn well wasn't going to work out if things went exactly how they said things were going to go, with Jimmy getting injured and having to go. Because if you had really believed, all right, Jimmy is going to get injured, Trey is the future, then you needed that third quarterback. You need a bridge quarterback. If you knew that Trey wasn't ready, he needed a full year to rest, but you were dead set on having him and dead set on keeping Jimmy, then you needed someone in between because you knew Jimmy was going to get hurt.
Think it through, Rob. Let's say theoretically that, which it's been reported, that Kyle got overruled, essentially. That he liked Trey Lance, loved Mac Jones, got overruled. This is John Lynch's plan.
Right.
In a sense, Kyle lost a little power and standing in the organization because you got overruled by John Lynch. Okay, he's not sabotaging the season, but worst case scenario is John's plan doesn't work out. As you said, fail logic from the outset. It's John's logic.
Yes.
John said this could work, right? I gave it a shot. It didn't work. Who's responsible? Who has to answer for this? John. And then what's the result? Well, Kyle gets more power.
Yep.
Kyle gets more power. So, you overruled me and you told me this was what going to happen? Well, guess what? Now you're gone. And I'm working with Trey, and I like the idea of Trey Lance in 2022 and 2023. I'm all in for that. But this whole thing that we were doing in 2021, it was absurd from the start. It was your idea, and you're going to pay for it. Sorry. That could be happening right now. You undermined my power. You made me lose face in the organization and made it seem like I didn't know what I was talking about with quarterbacks. Look at Mac Jones. Look at Jimmy. Look at you. You're back at Fox. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, they're cool, but Kyle got overruled, and Kyle's petty, and Kyle's always right. You think he's going to look, he could be winning right here. Oh, your plan didn't work, John. What a freaking surprise. I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
It's entirely possible. I tended to see Lynch coming out and backing Shanahan more recently as evidence of them still being on the same page. But, I mean, I'm not going down the rabbit hole.
Plan.
But yeah, it could be John trying to mend some fences as things have gone a little poorly this season, if it was, in fact, a plan forced on Kyle.
Here's how you know it was John's plan. Two different styles of quarterback. Kyle said this in 2017. Why didn't you keep Colin? Well, if you have two styles, we have Hoyer and Beathard, and you really got to commit to something. He said this. You got to commit to something because if you got two, then you're really doing a disservice to your offense. The whole the other 10 players, because they're not going to be good at either style of offense. And then that's what he said. And that's what they created this year. An offense that is nothing. It has no identity. It's good at nothing. It doesn't execute well because their time on task is split.
They're split.
And Kyle said this at the onset of his tenure. This is not how you build a team. And they do this in year 5, not his plan.
Yeah, Jerry.
I'm not trying to give him an excuse. I think it's pretty clear, though, who set this up and why the failed logic was there from the outset. It's someone else's logic.
Yeah, Jerry was asked the same question and answered on that interview this week, talking about he preferred,
Jerry.
I want to know who my quarterback is.
Right.
I want to know.
Duh. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
It's helpful to me as the receiver to know who's throwing me the ball week in, week out, whose team this is.
It's true. Kyle's whole thing is like, so what are we doing? 2 quarterback system? What are we doing here? Like, what am I supposed to do? Tell me again. Because there's no right answer here. That's why this whole 2021 year it's hard, but it feels like limbo. Like, what are you accomplishing? You're wasting a great effort by the defense. You don't know how long D'Amico's going to be here. He's killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, wasting a year of Trent Williams, Fred Warner. Football's brutal. You don't know how long these guys are going to last.
Yeah. Wasting, if you are playing for the future, wasting valuable money in keeping Jimmy around. That $27 million would certainly help in signing some key free agents next offseason.
So what should they have done? Either one of two things. When you trade up to 3 and take a quarterback, you got to get rid of Jimmy.
Yep. Bring in a bridge.
Or if you want to keep Jimmy, then you don't trade up to 3. One or the other. This idea of moving up to 3, keeping Jimmy and stashing the number 3 pick for a year is fireable. And Jed has to know whose idea that was. Fireable.
I would only say that it's acceptable if you're straight up about it from the onset. That's where, as a fan, I feel taken advantage of, and that's why I'm irritated. That's why you can feel it coming out of me here, is that I feel as if they told me one thing, and now I'm looking at the reality of something completely different. I would have been okay going in if they had brought in that, second string quarterback that could have played behind Jimmy when inevitably Jimmy got hurt. I would have been okay with a Trey redshirt year if I had been told that was the plan from the outset, because my expectations would have been different, right? I would have changed them, but I come in with these huge expectations. 49ers are this tire fire, and it's the delta, the difference between the two that's so upsetting.
And again, the failed logic is trying to have 2 different styles of offense. It's ridiculous. Yes. I mean, not really. Yeah. I mean, so what they could have done was gotten Trey Lance, gotten rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, and gotten a backup like Cam Newton, who is like Trey Lance. Or they could have not traded up, kept Jimmy Garoppolo, drafted Mac Jones at 12, and kept both of them.
Sure.
And if Jimmy gets hurt, had Mac Jones. I mean, and you could have committed to one or the other. Instead, they rode the fence. They're 2-3. Their offense is the problem. They do nothing well on offense. They kick ass on defense. So we'll see what they got after the bye week.
Yeah, the lie may have cost them significantly, man. When you look at the fact that they've given away that first-round draft pick coming up, it could end up being a high draft pick this year, and that will make the trade that much more painful.
All right. Being stubborn is a virtue when you're right. The Kyle Shanahan story.
When you're right.
By Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, this is a quote from Tony Dungy in the Matt Mayoko interview. And I agree with the logic, meaning that if you believe you're correct with your current strategy as you see it, you should stick to your guns. If you believe that you are correct in what you're doing, but that outside circumstances are the reason for your failure. So in this example, if I'm Kyle Shanahan and I believe everything I'm doing, the team that I'm building, the offense that I'm executing is all where it should be, what it should be, but the injuries of 2020 just derailed my season. It would be foolhardy of me, if I believe those things to be true, to completely revamp the way in which I build my team, the way in which I construct my offense, because it was outside factors. If I stay the course, eventually those outside factors will drift away, and what I'm doing well will show the results on the field.
Yeah. Well, look, he adjusted his behavior during the bye week. That's a good sign. He watched tape of himself, not just himself throwing at practice, which we know he does, watched tape of himself talking and was like, ew, I can do better, and did. So that's a good sign. That shows a little bit of flexibility. One of my big issues with Kyle and why I start to feel like he's not a head coach is he's so stubborn. I think you need flexibility. I think as a head coach, you can't just be the kind of guy who says, this is going to happen. I think this is going to happen and I'm going to be right. Dude, watch. And if something different than what you thought happens, that's okay if you react. And he's late to react, or he's like refuses to acknowledge reality. That's what it is. It refuses to acknowledge reality until way late. Like, man, would you just use your eyes? Okay, it's not what you predicted. That's okay. You don't have to be a fortune teller, man. Just react to reality quicker. That's stubbornness, man. So look, he had a week in his bye week to look or listen to his wife or his mom or whoever, his dad. He made an adjustment. Maybe he'll make an adjustment with his offense too. And they're talking about they need explosive plays. And that's been the thing with Kyle forever, that no matter who his quarterback is, who his running back is, he gets the big plays in the run game and the pass game. They've been gone this year. And they're like, well, Mostert's gone. I don't care. Kyle, you've been in the league like 14 years. You can do this. And so I think the reason that they're gone is because he's been so safety first with Jimmy. He's been really trying to keep Jimmy as the starter as long as possible so he can marinate Lance. He's trying to marinate Lance or whatever. And that's taken away the explosive plays. And I think they're getting to the point, it's almost, mid-season. Maybe Lance has already gotten one start. He could start next week if he's healthy. Jimmy, you got to throw it downfield. We got to extend it. And if you start throwing picks, well, then we got to move on. We can't do safety first, training wheels offense forever. We can't. We got to go downfield here. And this is the week we're going to do it on Sunday Night Football. And if you blow it in front of the nation, it's going to make it easy. You're going to bench yourself, dude. So here we go. No more training wheels. Let's go. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So you're saying it's time to move on. It's time to stop being so stubborn and open things up a bit.
Let it rip.
It makes sense to me. You got to know what you have at this point.
You're weak in the secondary. Let it rip, baby.
Yeah. You cannot remain conservative going forward.
Nah.
That may have been, an acceptable, executable plan coming into this season, but sitting at 2-3, going into a matchup that people think is going to be a layup, but is really against a fairly tough Indianapolis team that is regaining their own momentum. I tend to agree that I don't think
it's in the Niners' interest or Kyle's interest to carry Jimmy anymore. He's been carrying Jimmy it's hard to, but he does carry Jimmy in a lot of ways with the easy stuff,
sure,
and the manufactured throws. They need to sort of look to make a transition to Trey at some point, just the way that the Ravens did for Lamar Jackson midway through his rookie year. So, okay, Jimmy, we're going to ask more of you. And if you can rise to the occasion like Alex Smith did that year when Mahomes was on the bench, then it's your job, dude. I mean, Alex Smith rose to the occasion that year and led the league in passer rating, and they didn't bench him until they pretty much had to the next year. So, Jimmy, you could be that guy too, but not with the, 7 points before halftime, messing around, doing nothing offense. We got to go down the field.
Yeah, open it up. Force Jimmy into a situation where he has to perform and show everyone whether that's going to be the case this season, or, to your point, whether it is in fact just time to accept that this season is not going where we want it to and focus on 2022.
Let's answer some questions real quick. Amir says, Jimmy starting, time to fade the Niners. ML looking real good for the Colts. Let's go Defo. Who's ML? I don't know. Who the hell is ML?
Not Darius Leonard.
It's not Michael Pittman. Look, the Colts are more banged up than the Niners are. I mean, I don't know about the Colts, guys. T.Y. Hilton's hurt. Quentin Nelson's hurt. The Niners should win this game. Doesn't mean they will.
Right.
But they should win this game.
They should.
How much can we get for Deebo in the trade market? Because he's going to be too expensive for us. That's an interesting one. I don't know if he's worth a first-round pick yet.
No?
But he's trending that direction. Definitely trending that direction.
Definitely trending.
Maybe if he has a phenomenal year and misses no time, at the end of the year, he might be worth it. But now,
that's a fair point.
It's a little wait and see, because he had a terrible year. He had a non-year last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. To just have a 6-game sample size, I'm guessing that teams aren't lining up for that one. But you can't ship away the entirety of the 49ers offense.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't trade Deebo now. What I would do, I wouldn't extend him this offseason.
No.
But I would. I mean, he's under contract next year. Bring him back. And then tag him. That's what the franchise tag is for.
Yeah.
And if he can stay healthy like 3-4 years in a row, then you consider it. If he looks like the next Jerry Rice, then yeah, for sure. But if he continues to have injury problems, then you ride it out for a couple more years, and then you trade him or you let him go.
You hedge your bets a little bit in doing that. You probably, if he's successful, you end up costing yourself millions of dollars, but you're hedging against the other side of it, which is you spend millions of dollars and have another continually injured player. I like the idea of the conservative approach, allowing him to demonstrate that he can stay healthy, that this was a change in his body type, and being fine with spending the extra money to ensure that's who we're signing.
And give him something to prove every year.
Yes.
The person that I would be interested in trading, that I've been talking about all week, is Kittle. I know it's always hard to talk about players to trade, but if you're trying to get a first-round pick, Kittle is the one that you would think about. He's had 2 rough seasons in a row in terms of injuries. He's 28.
Yep.
Hard to see him feels like his best football is behind him, is the way I'd put it. And you don't want to trade someone like Buckner, whose best football was ahead of him. They traded him when he was 24. You don't want to do that. You don't want to trade Fred Warner or anyone like that. But Kittle, that's someone you'd consider. But let's see how the season ends up. He could come back in 2 weeks, ball out, and you're like, we'll keep him.
I could see the portion of your argument that is he's had his most productive season already. I could see that being the case, that he may not exceed the receiving yards he's had, but when he's on the field, what he does, what he brings to the game, I mean, I would say that he's still at the top of the game when he's healthy in my book.
And the reason you would consider trading him is because he's not healthy enough, or he hasn't been the last 2 years, and you're paying him a ton of money, and you have no first-round pick next year. So I don't know. If it ain't him, you got to get real creative.
Yeah.
Damon says, have you noticed that the only people called out by the team are black? BA isn't working hard enough, but Brunskill and McGlinchey can do no wrong. Ooh. Wow.
The only thing that doesn't fit that, I mean, it's an interesting observation for sure, but I would say they've been pretty hard on Jimmy this offseason. I would say that they've been critical.
They didn't take his job away.
No, they didn't. And to be fair, while they were critical of his ability to stay healthy, they danced around the idea of actually trying to upgrade talent when we all knew that was part of the motivation.
Damn, Damon. Wow. I haven't thought of it, so I'm not just going to condemn the 49ers and call them racist right now. But I see what you're saying. They look, I hadn't looked at the racial aspect of it, but the whole Ayuk isn't good enough, but McGlinchey is they never say anything about McGlinchey. What do you mean? He's terrific. He's pro. He does everything right.
Yeah.
What? But Ayuk, there's a problem with him. I hadn't gone the next step, but I guess I'll have to look for patterns. Damon, interesting.
Yeah, you hope it's not true, but it's worth calling out.
Kyle, you should probably make sure that's not true, because it's a bad look if that's the case. You should make sure that's not true. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate, Jimmy could have requested a trade if he believed in his skill sets. He knows his skill sets are diminishing. Niners were it. He could have requested a trade, but he's making $27 million right now. Any team that's willing to pay him $27 million is a team that I think he'd be willing to play for.
Right.
And I don't know how many teams are willing to pay him $27 million right now. It's a lot.
And it's fair to think that he pictured the 49ers and an offense he's comfortable in as his best chance to prove that he's still worthy of that contract.
That's true. He knows the offense, supposedly. It's been here 5 years.
It hasn't materialized, but.
Y'all see the article that the Falcons would have taken Trey at the number 5 pick? Well, they had the number 4 pick. I did not see this article. Who wrote it?
I did. There was a lot of chatter back and forth from the Falcons fans about that idea that they would have taken Trey, but then didn't take any of the other options, that it was Trey at quarterback or none of the other quarterbacks remaining. I don't know who reported it.
Okay. So we don't know who reported it. I don't believe it. I don't disbelieve.
No, it's fair.
If Schefter reported it, okay. Was Jimmy's answer odd at the press conference that he and Trey weren't rehabbing together or going over the game film plan? How bad is the sprain? You know, it's funny. I remember when Colin took over for Alex Smith, it was documented how much Alex Smith worked with Colin Kaepernick during the week and helped him during games. I don't get that vibe from Jimmy. Now, it's not Jimmy's job to do that. And maybe Steve Young wouldn't have done that, or Joe. But Alex Smith did, and it really helped Colin. And it's one of the things that was endearing about Alex.
Yeah, I think it speaks more to the character of Alex Smith than it does any strike against Jimmy. I think it is reasonable to be focused on yourself at this point in time, with you trying to perform where you need to be performing. But to your point, it just brings up the warm and fuzzies about Alex Smith. I mean, that guy, God.
Grade A says, don't know if you covered it. You asked that question 2 days ago, and Kyle said that's something he loves about Trey. He doesn't have to change the offense for Trey. He adds another dimension. Is he just blowing smoke? Yeah, I don't think he's just blowing smoke. I think he really believes it. The question is, when will you let Trey run your offense? Because you didn't let him do it against the Cardinals. But it was week 5. He was the youngest quarterback to ever start a game in the NFL or something. I think this is something we may see in a month or next year. Remember, I keep going back to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Like, they had a very specific timeline and it worked. He didn't play the first 9 weeks.
Right.
He started the last 7 games, started a playoff game, didn't look good, came back the second year, won the MVP. So if that's what the Niners envisioned for Trey Lance, you could justify it. Be like, it worked for them. Well, like, why don't we wait until late November before we give him the starting job? Because he'll still be the youngest quarterback ever at that point. I mean, he's 5 months younger than Lamar was. He'll get 8 starts this year. That's a good number. And then next year, he'll freaking kill it running our offense. That could be what the plan is.
It could. You know, I mean, it's
giving the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, you really are.
Yeah.
It is. You would hope that is the plan going forward. What I want to know, though, is how much worse could it have looked asking Trey to operate within the standard offense than what we saw against the Cardinals, right? I mean, I just wish that they had given him the chance to succeed instead of really showing a lack of confidence.
Why didn't they? Before the game, Ian Rappaport said there's nothing he can do to win the job. I think they don't. I think Kyle doesn't want Trey to take it. I think he wants Jimmy to give it away.
Interesting.
It's a lot like the Ravens. Remember, Jimmy is Joe Flacco in this.
Yeah, right.
And Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl. Jimmy didn't win it, but he's still kind of revered around here in the same way, especially by his teammates.
Yeah, he raised up this organization.
Yeah, guys like Tart, Ward, guys who have only experienced winning with Jimmy are going to need to see Jimmy pretty much no longer have that winning touch. And Wentz, I think that's the way I look at it, just because that's what happened in Baltimore. Flacco was 4-2. He lost 3 in a row, and they turned Lamar out of desperation, like, save our season, man. The whole team finally realizes that they can't win with Joe Flacco anymore.
Right.
It's over. That era is over, and we're all 100% behind you until Jimmy loses to the Colts or loses 3 in a row, or they're 4-5, and the team's like, well, damn, I guess we really aren't that revenge tour team that can beat anyone with. I guess we need to move on. It's going to be tough, and I think that's why Kyle didn't put Trey in a position to take the job, because he's going to make Jimmy give it away.
So the underlying fear of a true quarterback controversy dictated a bit more of the game plan.
He doesn't want to create a quarterback controversy. And I think the Ravens didn't create one either. It's like, Joe, out of respect, it's your job until it ain't. And dude, you just lost 3 in a row. 3 strikes, you're out. We're 4-5. We're not going to make the playoffs with you. We've lost confidence in you. Everyone wants to move on now. And that's what happened in Baltimore. And that allowed Lamar Jackson to have the whole team behind him. You know, if Lance goes out and plays well, there could still be a big portion of the team that's like, well, Jimmy got hurt. Jimmy's still good.
Sure.
It's not fair.
There would still be doubts.
There's still doubts, and you'd have a fractured team. So that could be what's going on. I'm trying to give the Niners the benefit of the doubt here.
I mean, I would think Kyle's mindset going into this year is I'm safe where I'm at. But if I allow this quarterback controversy to devolve, that's a scenario where my seat could get hot. So that could have been the scenario he was attempting to avoid all year long.
Look at Doug Peterson last year, right?
Right.
How do you think the 100% chance of rain on Sunday Night Football will affect Jimmy's ability to throw the deep? That's a good point. Maybe I'm tripping on that big play thing. There's going to be rain. Why would you do this? Good point.
That is. Although, you know, I mean, the safe shots, right, where it's still a play action in between the 40s and taking that deep shot, those plays don't have a terrible risk involved with them.
Yeah. Good point, Tony. I haven't really considered that, but that's another reason to expect kind of a low-scoring, sloppy game.
Yeah, a bit more like the Redskins of 2019.
Yeah, Tobin's saying the
Washington
same thing.
Football Team.
Tobin's saying the same thing. Yeah, I guess I got a little ahead of myself on that one. Trade Jimmy for D'Ernest Johnson from running back from the Browns. Great story. But also a little overdone. People just love fantasy football. Oh my God.
Yes, they do.
You know what I mean?
Myself included.
Yeah. We haven't had a prolific passing game since the Garcia days. That's true. I thought Kyle would bring that back, but it hasn't happened yet. Thoughts? Yeah.
It felt as if we were heading that direction in 2019 until the end, right? Until it became clear Kyle was taking the ball out of Jimmy's hands and had next to no confidence in his quarterback. When I went to the game in New Orleans and sat there in the Superdome and watched that shootout, I thought to myself, the 2016 Falcons, baby, like the offense is starting to ramp up. And it just has never materialized. And it makes you question, why not? Is it a roster issue? Is it a system issue? And I don't have the answers right now.
Yeah, I don't have the answers either. But maybe better pass protection, wide receivers who can catch the ball, better quarterback. It could happen.
Help. Yeah.
Joshua says Lance is the least ready, most physically perfect prospect I've ever seen. Agree. That is the best sentence. Least ready, most physically perfect. Agree. Totally agree. Off the
well
charts.
Said.
Yeah, really great, really great. How can we judge his progression curve against any contemporary examples? Lamar was super young. He was a little bit more experienced, but he was the youngest quarterback ever. This guy's younger than Lamar was.
Right.
Lamar had his numbers his rookie year were modest, but he went 6-1 as a starter and started a playoff game and then took a huge jump the second year. Compare Trey's numbers right now to Lamar's his rookie year. They're better. Now, he hasn't played as much, but that is a great measuring stick. Lamar, not Mahomes. They're different. Lamar.
Yeah. I mean, you could say they're both different, though. Lamar is Madden special with what he can do in the open field. And I don't think Trey is anywhere near that elusive in the way that Lamar is.
Well, look, no. Lamar's built like the best scat back in the league.
Right.
Trey Lance is built like a bell cow.
Right.
But he's super agile for a big dude. Like Kaepernick couldn't break down and make people and juke like that.
No.
This guy, he's almost like the way he runs to me is Cam Newton, except
I was going to throw out there Dante Culpepper.
Oh, but this guy is way he's to me. Look, I'm gonna say Cam Newton minus 20 pounds and faster.
Yeah.
But that same kind of agility and ability to change gears.
Yes.
Okay, that's it for the questions. Back to the show. The explosion is back for Samson Ebukam. What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, to this point, Bosa's having a phenomenal season, right? This was D'Amico Ryans talking about Samson Ebukam and the hamstring issue, getting that extra week of rest. It would make, in my mind, a huge difference having Samson Ebukam, having anyone that is consistently winning on the other side, because Bosa, while statistically is having a great season, maybe his efficiency rates are down slightly from 2019, but having a great season. Just imagine what he could do if you had equal or even close pressure coming off of the other side.
It's huge because, look, let's be frank. D Ford ain't coming back to what he was.
No.
I mean, they got like the ghost of D Ford out there playing 10 snaps a game, and I don't even notice him. They say that he plays 10 snaps a game. That's news to me. And when he is out there, I don't see him doing anything. So they got to get something.
Yep.
Opposite Bosa, and it's not Armstead. He's setting the edge, but he's not an edge rusher. It's got to be Ebukam, and so far he's been just as much of a ghost as Ford, if not a bigger. He's been a bigger ghost than Ford. So if it was just the hamstring and he's going to turn it on, great, grand, phenomenal. They need you to.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan basically confirmed for all of us what we already knew with the snap count for D Ford, in that the back injury is not gone. It is manageable at this point, but only manageable to the point where we're seeing scant snaps from D Ford and not seeing a wildly productive snap count from D Ford either. So someone's got to step it up on that edge. I was optimistic when we signed Samson Ebukam. I thought he was going to be a missing piece for this defense, and that was at a time where I didn't have faith that we were going to see D Ford back at all.
Agree. So I guess it's good news, but I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
You have to see it on the field.
I got to see it. I mean, we've talked a lot about what he can bring. He's brought nothing so far. So I'd like to see it first. But good to talk about. Let's talk about what Kyle Juszczyk said. So what was the issue with the offense? It's hard to point to just one thing. That's pretty much what the Niners said coming back from this. It's just hard to point to one thing here. What do you think of that answer?
It's similar to the one that we seem to get from all of the headier guys that come to the podium. It's similar to what I've heard from Kyle Shanahan. It's similar to what I've heard from Mike McDaniel. And you could say that it's the correct answer. It's the way in which you should answer that question. It's dancing around it. It's not giving one specific answer because you don't want to give away too much. But as a fan, as someone that watches the product on the field, expecting significantly better play and continually getting what appear to be fixable issues, I want to hear my team firmly describe those things that they're going to do better. I want to hear them acknowledge the same core issues that we're all seeing. I find it frustrating when they dance around this question. I think at this point, you have to start giving more concrete answers.
Yeah, but at the same time, I kind of feel him because I don't know if there is a fix. Like, what's the Niners' problem right now? Kittle's hurt.
Yep.
Ayuk isn't as good. They say Ayuk isn't good. They don't like Ayuk. Kittle's hurt. They don't like Ayuk. Mostert's hurt. Jason Verrett's hurt. I mean, the roster that they constructed that was flawed is showing its flaws. And are they gonna is there some schematic fix that Kyle Shanahan can concoct in a bye week that makes up for the loss of Kittle and Mostert? I don't know. Maybe. Because right now their offense is Deebo and that's it. Just Deebo. There's only so much you can do with one guy on offense. And if they can't establish anyone else, not Ayuk, Dwelly, Sanu, anyone, I don't see, how do you fix that? How do you fix that? You make a trade. You could trade for Odell Beckham Jr.
Sure.
Someone could step up, but until that happens, I just think they're a really freaking flawed team. They were very dependent on Raheem Mostert and George Kittle, and they got 2 carries from Mostert, and they got 0 healthy games from George Kittle.
Yeah. So we differ here in that I agree that they're entirely too reliant upon Kittle and Mostert, and probably rightfully so. When you have studs within your offense, you build your offense around those studs, and you hope that those studs stay healthy and produce for you. But I would say that I still believe this roster is talented enough. I still believe these issues are fixable mid-season, and the ones that frustrate me are those that seem the easiest to address. Execution, the elimination of the stupid penalties that occur. And I'll give them some leeway for the fact that they switched from a statuesque quarterback to one that's completely mobile, and therefore many of the holding penalties that we saw were as a result of an offensive line that wasn't able to practice with that quarterback because of the faulty decisions that were made in preseason. But I still think that talent is there, and for me, that's the frustrating part, is that it needs to be about execution. And for me, I need to hear Kyle Shanahan talk about executing on those points and take that ownership himself of making sure that he is addressing it with the team and is taking responsibility for getting them better in those areas.
I just think the offense is a mess, Rob. I mean, the center that they signed, who's supposed to make a big difference, is the worst player on their offensive line, Alex Mack.
You would put him above Brunskill as far as poor play.
I think he's the worst. I mean, yes, and then Brunskill, and then McGlinchey. So Mack has been a bust. Banks was supposed to be a starter. He's not playing.
Right.
Sermon was supposed to be a big-time contributor. I like him. They don't. Ayuk's not contributing. They don't have – their starting quarterback got hurt already. The backup quarterback wasn't adequately prepared. It's a mess. The offense is a freaking mess. They do nothing particularly well. They don't have an identity. I don't know how you fix that. I know they feel like they can because they've had a good offense in the past. Just 2 years ago, they were the number 2 rated offense in the freaking league. So it feels like they should be able to fix it, but it might be a little late. I don't know.
It might. I worry that some of those players you mentioned that they're not performing within this offense, if you transplanted them to a healthy team at this point, and I don't mean physically healthy, I mean emotionally and competitively healthy team at this point. I don't know that Brandon Ayuk wouldn't be having a phenomenal season on some other team. I don't know that it isn't a schematic or coaching issue. This refusal to sort of rely upon the younger players and allow them to win and improve week to week, to get better week to week. Mike McDaniel actually said that. Like, you can see the guys who play getting better week to week. Oh, really? That's not a surprise to me. So how about we play some of those rookies that need to get better so that they can progress from week to week? To me, I don't see it as a team that is bereft of talent. I see it as an execution issue.
Okay. All right. I see it also as an injury issue. I mean, Kittle needs to be dominating, and Mostert's not coming back. But Kittle, I mean, from the blocking to the receiving, he's integral on every single play, and he's gone. And I love Ross Dwelley, but he's not the blocker that Kittle is.
He's not.
He doesn't run like Kittle. They don't use him. They need Kittle. They need Kittle. They said they're not waiting for anyone to walk through the door. Yes, they are. They're waiting for George Kittle to walk through the door. You got to play, man. And I know it's not your fault. I'm not saying that it's not your fault, but you're super important, dude. You got to play. Super important. Rapid fire. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Boom. This is just a series of questions that I want to get your answer on going forward. All right. So this is a two-part question. Grant, which quarterback should start going forward for the 49ers for the rest of the season?
I can't say that. The guy who should start against the Colts is Jimmy because Trey's hurt.
Nice.
So let's take it game by game. Jimmy should start this week. If he loses, Trey should start the rest of the season. If Jimmy wins, let it ride. Let it ride. Let Trey marinate, because the way they want to use Trey right now, it doesn't excite me. So if they feel Trey needs another month and a half, okay, Jimmy, hold it down. But if he loses because he's lost 2 in a row now. I know this isn't a rapid answer. He's lost 2 in a row. If it's 3, if he can't beat Indianapolis, and it's not just him. It's not just him winning.
It's not.
If the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback can't beat Indianapolis coming off a bye, it's time to move on. You're just wasting your time at this point because you know Trey's your starter next year.
Yeah, I would go even further to say the game plan that they showed for Trey Lance is terrifying, not just exciting. So who will start going forward? You've basically already spelled that out, but let's go through the one hypothetical that you listed there. Yeah. If Jimmy loses against the Colts this Sunday, who will start the next game if Trey is healthy? Do you think they will make the switch, or will they stick with Jimmy?
I think they'll make the switch.
Wow.
3 losses in a row.
Yeah.
You can look to the team. You can look at Mike McGlinchey, George Kittle, all these guys, and be like, you lost 3 in a row with this guy. Can we move on now? I mean, we gave it a shot. You said we could win with Jimmy. You wanted to do this. I listened. I respected the wish of the veterans on my team, and we can't do it. Can we move on now?
Can you see it yet?
What do you want to do? Because it seems like Kyle really is not just going to tell the team what's going to happen. He's listening for input. And, what do you think now? You're 2-4. Are you good? Are you ready? You ready to make the move? But the thing is, the thing is crazy. Like, Lance got hurt, but they won't say when. They don't know when he got hurt.
It's wild.
And it's not that bad, but he can't practice. So it just seems to me that the way to not have a quarterback controversy is to say he's still hurt. He's still hurt.
There's no option for a quarterback.
There's no option. Yeah. And then when you want him to take over, hey, guess what? He's not hurt anymore. It's the funniest thing.
It does work out nicely in that way.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
How can Shanahan adjust to give the starting quarterback the best chance for success? With Jimmy returning against the Colts, what's the best way for Shanahan to adjust?
Handoffs and quick passes from the gun.
Play to his strengths.
Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, please. Kyle, you put the whole game, you put the whole world in Trey's hands in his first start. And I don't know why you did that. Don't do that anymore. Don't do that. The whole world was in his hands. It was a lot for one man.
Yeah. 21-year-old rookie.
It's a lot.
Yes, it is. All right. What do you see as the strengths for a struggling Indianapolis Colts team? Give me 2.
Front 7. That defense. The defense is legit. People don't know. Like I was talking about it earlier. Everyone appreciates Fred Warner out here. Fred Warner's a great player. They got Fred Warner. His name's Darius Leonard. Great player.
Darius Leonard.
They're very similar. baller, very similar, great player. 53, you're going to see him. They also have this guy. What's his name? I forgot his name. He used to DeForest Buckner. He's a hell of a player. They got him. No, they're definitely equipped to shut down the Niners run game. Now, the Niners are equipped to shut down their run game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, sloppy, muddy game, but that's a legit front seven. And the last 3 games, that defense has given up 17 points per. So it's legit defense, really good coordinator who's been, I think, interviewed for head coaching jobs the last couple of years. So considered one of the better coordinators out there. Eberflus. That's a real name.
Eberflus. That is it. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I love a good mud bowl, and I hope that's what we get Sunday night. God, it's so much fun when it's just sloppy out there.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right, so will Wentz have time to throw, or will the vaunted 49ers pass rush get home repeatedly?
He'll have time to throw if the offense can't build a lead, because what keeps happening is the defense comes out and plays well, and the offense does nothing. And while the opposing offense is doing nothing, like is getting dominated by the Niners defense, they can kind of still run the ball and stick to their game plan because they're not losing by much, or it's tied at 0. So if what happened in 2019 was they were up big quick. It was 14-0 quick on teams, and
teams were forced into that scenario.
Yeah, like, oh well, we got to give up the run game and give up our game plan and start passing, and then boom, here come the sacks, here come the turnovers. So yeah, if the Niners offense has figured something out and they can actually get an early lead for the first time since week 1, yes, absolutely, the turnovers will happen, the sacks will happen, but we'll see, man. It hasn't happened since week 1.
Do you have faith in Carson Wentz? Was he as good as he looked on Sunday, or was that the matchup against the Texans?
I think Carson Wentz is a good player.
You do?
I'm a Carson Wentz truther. He's very similar to Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense that they have good numbers when they play most of the time. They get hurt most of the time, but their playing styles are totally different. This guy is functional from the pocket, but once you get him outside the pocket, he's as big of a playmaker as he's a top 7-8 playmaker as a quarterback, I think, once you get him outside, and he gets big plays with his arms and his legs. He's kind of like Trey Lance. They went to the same school.
Most people wouldn't even think twice about it, but I believe the Paris Campbell injury was a big one for the Colts. He was a true deep threat, and year in, year out, people talk about him having a breakout season. He cannot stay healthy to unfortunately save his career, but he had a big touchdown catch last week and then is out. So I think that's a blessing for the 49ers, T.Y. Hilton being down, because otherwise Carson Wentz is a deep threat, man. It would be something that could take the top off.
True.
All right, so how do you feel about Josh Norman? Give him a quick grade to this point in the season so far.
C. I mean, they got him off the street. It's as good as you could expect. He always looks like he's right in the wide receiver's pocket, but it's because he's holding them. And he gets called for like at least 1 or 2 a game. And I think those are really, it's like only 1 or 2 a game. It's a big deal. And a lot of times it's on third down. It extends a drive. I'm not really big into the bargain basement cornerbacks. It's admirable what he's doing, but I don't think it's good enough.
Yeah, I think 49ers fans can simultaneously be pleased with the fact that they're getting something from him and not thrilled with what's being produced.
I mean, Mosley's killing it. He's doing a great job. Norman, you just keep throwing at him. He's going to grab the guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna
All right. Do we see anything more from any of the rookies coming out of the bye with the extra time? Do we see anything more from any of the rookies?
If the Niners did any honest self-scouting, they would have to acknowledge that they buried Trey Sermon for no reason. No good reason. His numbers are good.
Yeah.
Up to the season, he's averaging 4.4 yards per carry. Elijah Mitchell's averaging 4.2. So why do you like Mitchell so much more? And then, like, Sermon's only had 31 carries this season. The last 20 came the last 2 weeks. He had 19 against Seattle, and he had 1 against Arizona. Together, that's 20 carries for 96 yards. That's 4.8 yards per carry. Why would you not give him the ball? What is going on here? So you might want to get Trey Sermon involved, considering Mostert's out.
And he passes the eye test and getting better and better week in, week out.
Yeah.
Will the loss of Julian Blackmon, the Colts safety, who went down with an Achilles injury in practice on Wednesday, is that going to factor into the 49ers win on Sunday, I should say?
Well, maybe it'll entice the Niners to take shots deep in the rain. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Couldn't hurt. I mean, it couldn't help. He's a good player and he's out. So it should affect a good defense.
It should. And you would think that'd be something that you would attack.
I would
but
think
the rain maybe negates that.
I want to see deep shots.
I do too.
Yeah.
Last question of the day, Grant. And just to call out that after we finish this, I'm going to be going over to my channel. So all of you watching right now, you stick with me. You head over to my channel to keep rapping. Last question for Grant. How badly will Buckner beat up on Brunskill?
Oh, NC-17. Not good. It'll
Not
be graphic.
safe for work.
Have you seen Squid Game? It'll be like that. Those kind of scenes where you're like,
I have not.
That is just wow. You probably should have cut away or given people some notice, some warning, because kids are watching. No, they're gonna have to double team him. And the thing about the Colts is they don't really have much else on the line other than Buckner. So Niners should be able to block him as long as they have a good plan and execute it. They should be okay. They should win this game. The Colts are 2-4. It's not a lot to ask. They're not going to the playoffs. The Niners had an extra week to prepare. They're at home. Figure it out, guys. I know you're hurt. They're hurt. Come on, man. Figure it out. Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. That's the offense. You can beat that. You can beat that. You got Deebo. You got Dwelly. Come on.
If you're going to be a good team within the NFL, you have to beat the other average to below average teams. That's just a fact. Yeah,
man. This would be 4 losses in a row. Really, I mean, you'd have to look at Kyle like you had an extra week to prepare and you couldn't beat the Colts at home. Are you good? I mean, a lot of bad things would happen. A lot of bad questions would come up.
Just win.
That's my advice. My professional advice to the Niners this week is win the game. I think it's in your interest.
That's solid advice. I
think
they should probably
as your attorney, my professional advice is to win the game.
That's why you get the big bucks, Grant.
Yes. Trey needs a big wide receiver with short hands. Kaepernick did too. They brought in Bolden. Great matchup.
Bolden and Crabtree.
Yeah,
fantastic.
All right, Jerry. It's been a pleasure. You look great.
Well, thank you.
I think you're still suited up, man.
Indeed. I'm another year older. I celebrated my birthday yesterday.
How old are you? 27?
Yeah, 27. Indeed. Nice. Just 4 years older than this jersey.
Nice. That's great, man. Well, happy birthday. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you don't subscribe to Rob Schuh's channel already, do that. I'll be back.
Head over there now. We're going to continue the show.
Right now.
Right now.
See you guys.